My name is Heng Zhi Yuan. Now I will present the introduction to data modeling. Data modeling is the process of defining and analyzing data requirements and supported information systems. Next is data model. Data model is an expression of data functionality. Data is a symbolized record of things and models. A real-world expression, the data content describe three parts: data structure, data manipulation, and data contract. Next is model, expression of a real-world project or event. Is what are a business loop? Business loops. A short cue to the description of the policy, procedures, or principles in the business loops. Use this business loop used to maintain business structure or to control and influence business behaviors. There are 5 sorts of business loops: company managers and policy makers, department managers, written documentation, and the last is direct interviews with end users. And next part is identify and documenting business loops. In the right, your company's view of data. Those between user and designer, and important to remember that some business loops cannot moderate. Business loops allow designer to understand the natural rule and scope of the business process, and it provides develop a proactive relationship, participation rules, and thus we develop relationship to participate in rules and contracts and to create accurate data models. Translating business rules into data model components. First is nouns will translate into an entity in the model. Second is verbs will translate into relationships among entities. And the third is relationships are bidirectional. There are some examples for short questions to identify the relationship type. Number of questions to identify the relationship type. The first one is how many instances of B are related to one instance of A. And second is how many instances of A are related to one instance of B. I will invite the next presenter. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Leow Jia Rong. Today I want to talk about the type of model. The first one is hierarchical model. This model can organize data into 3 structures, and the data stored in record and linked to another segment by a link. And the advantage of this model is promote conceptual simplicity and data integrity. And this model also managed by DNS to ensure database security. And this model efficient with the one-to-many relationship. And the disadvantage of this model is this model requires a large amount of physical data storage and retrieval knowledge. And this model also will cause the structural dependence and data independence. And finally, this model navigation system will look like so complicated. And the second model is network model. Network model is best to represent complex objects and their relationship. And this model also improves database performance and describe one-to-many and many-to-many relationship. The advantage of this model is that has multiple parents. It will cause data independence and conceptual simplicity. And the data access also feasible, and data owner or member relationship will improve the data integrity. And this model also will use data definition language and data manipulation language to manage it. And the disadvantage of this model is this information will look like so complex than the hierarchical data model, and the structure also will dependence. And the third model is relational model. This model is to use to consider structure and language to manage their data. And this model also is a automatic transfer database. The advantage of this model is it will provide a tabular view that the conceptual look like simplicity, and it also will using ad hoc queries based on SQL to access the data. And the disadvantage of this model is it requires a lot of hardware and system software to maintain the system, and the people have no experience use this model will lead many information problems. Fourth one model is entity relationship model. This model will use graphic to represent entity and relationship in database structure. And the advantage of this model is it will use visual modeling to create conceptual simplicity. And it will provide a communication tool with people have no knowledge in data modeling. And the disadvantage is for this model is information will be lost when attributes are removed from entity. And the last model is object-oriented data model. This model use object correction to construct object content, store value for instant variable. Second, it also with a lot object recognition and communication while support data extraction, inheritance, and encapsulation. The advantage of this model is adding semantic content to visual representation, and the maintenance cost will be lesser. And the disadvantage of this model is that it will slow down the transaction time due to the high system. Okay, thank you. So I will invite my next member to present about their part.
My name is Khoo Wei Yang. Now I want to introduction the 5 types of ER diagram. An entities is an object of interest to the end user, and at the ER modeling level, an entity refer to the entity set and not to be a single entity occurrence. In other words, the word entity in the ER model corresponds to a table in the relational environment. The ER model refer to a table rows as an entity instance or entity occurrence. The attributes are characteristic of entities. For example, the student entity includes, among many others, the attribute student last name, student middle name, and student initial. A relationship is an association between entities. The entities that participate in a relationship are also known as participants, and each relationship is identified by a name that describes the relationship. The relationship name is an active or passive verb. For example, a student take a class, a professor teach a class, and aircraft is flown by a crew. Relationship between entities always operate in both directions. That is to define the relationship between the entities named customer and invoice. We would specify like a customer may generate many invoices. Each invoice is generated by one customer. The term connectivity is used to describe the relationship classification. just to show the existence and type of relation between entities. This word is the connectivity between these two tables. The cardinalities express the minimum and maximum number of entity occurrence associated with one occurrence of the related entities. In the ER diagram, cardinality is indicated by placing the appropriate number beside the entities using the format min and max. For example, one professor can teach one or more classes, but each single class can be taught by one professor at a time. This diagram shows the cardinalities. Okay. Next, I want to invite next presenter to present. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Teo. So right now I'll be discussing the examples of the basic relationship with using closed foot model. Okay, so for closed foot model, we have three types of relationship, which are one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many. So right now I'll be explaining about one-to-one relationship. So for example, one student could only have one ID, while one ID could only be had by one student. As for the second one traveler could hold only one passport, while one passport could be only held by one traveler. Okay, so right now I'll be discussing about one-to-many relation. So one father could have many children, and one children could have only one father. As for the second example, one project can be done by many students, and one student can only done only one specific project itself. Okay, so right now I'll be discussing many-to-many relations. So based on the first example, one student could have many classes, and many classes could have only have many students. While for the second one product can receive many orders from many companies, and one company can receive many orders and can order many products. So many-to-many relationships need to use a composite table in order to separate both to be one-to-many and many-to-one relation. So based on the first example, subject is the composite table. So one student can take many subjects, while one subject can be taken only by one student. As for the classes, one class could have many subjects, while one subject could only have one class. And based on the second example, the composite table is track. So one product could have many track codes, and one track code could only have one product. As for companies, one company could have many track codes, and one track codes could only have one specific company. So right now I will let my next presenter to present on the scenario. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Zheng Wei. Today I'm going to present scenario. In this scenario, a modernization furniture wants to create a database to its company. Okay? And based on this is a following list of the basic conditions that the company needs for its database. On the first point, a model has a Unicode, a description, price and particulars. Based on the diagram, we need to list out a model table. Because in the question it states got the Unicode, so we list out the model code for the primary key. So I list out the PK at the beside of the model code. And I list out the description, price, and the particulars. Then back to the question. In the second point, every department has a unique name and in charge
of the part. Based on the diagram, a department, we got the department code is as a primary key, and also a department name and in charge of the part. And back to the question, in the third point, each model is in charge by many departments. Every department is in charge. Every department is in charge only one model. Okay, go to back to the diagram. A model and a department, their relationship is one to many. One model can in charge in many departments, and one department can only in charge in one model. Back to the question. In the fourth point, workers have workers ID, name, and contact numbers, and some details of the workers. Based on the diagram, we need to list out the worker tables. First, we need to conduct the primary key. The primary key is workers ID. And next, we list out the attribute inside the workers just based on the question that's given. And next, back to the question. And in the fifth point, a department can have many workers. A department can have many workers, and the workers can be assigned many departments. And a production has a starting date and ending date in order to keep track with the production. And based on the diagram, the department, the table of the department and the table workers, both of them, the relationship is many to many. So in here, we need to have the composite table. So the production will be the composite table of the department tables and the workers table. So we need to make them to become a one to many and many to one. Okay? In one department have many production. In production can only have only one department. Okay? And for the workers table, one worker can assign with many production, and one production can be assigned with only one worker. Okay, back to the question. Okay, in the sixth point, buyers have buyer's ID, company name, contact number, emails, and address. Back to the diagram. We need to list out the buyer table. In the buyer table, we need to list out the primary key, which is buyer ID, and other attribute, which is name, contact number, emails, and address. Back to the question. Suppliers have an unique ID, suppliers company, names, and items. So back to the diagram. We need to list out the supplier tables and list out the primary key and its attributes. The supplier ID will be the primary key of the supplier table. Back to the question. Based on this point, buyers have buyer IDs, company name, contact number, emails, and address. Based on the diagram, we need to list out the buyer tables, and these are the primary key and its attributes. The buyer ID will be the primary key of the buyer tables, and the names, contact numbers, emails, and address will be the attributes of the buyer tables. And back to the question. A supplier has unique ID and supplier's company name. But based on the diagram, we need to conduct a supplier tables which contain a primary key, supplier ID, and a company name. back to the question. A buyer can buy many products and a production can be bought by many buyers, and orders table is created to track the orders between the buyers and sellers. Based on this question, we can know there's a relationship between the buyers and the production. Angie? Yeah. So, buyer can buy many production and then the production can be brought by many buyers.
Wrong coding.
Yeah, mà đừng có coi chuyện.
Right.
The order tables is create the order between the buyers and the sellers. Okay, action. A buyer can buy many productions and a production can be bought by many buyers. Another table is created to track the orders between the buyers and the sellers. Based on this question, we can know there's a relationship between the buyers and the production. You know? Based on this, we can know the relationship is many to many. Based on the diagram, we need to conduct a first table for buyers. The buyer's table needs a primary key, which is buyer's ID. The next is named, contact numbers, emails, and address. For this buyer tables, it's got the relationship to the production. Its relationship is many to many. So we need another composite tables for these both tables, buyer's tables and the production tables. We need to make orders to composite tables between these two tables. In orders tables, we need to have a primary key, which is order ID, and other two foreign keys, which is buyer ID and production ID. In these three tables, we can easily to know buyers can make many orders. One orders can make by a specific buyers, and based on these two tables, production and orders, we can know. And orders can only make by and one production can make many orders, but one orders can only make by only one production. Back to the question. A supplier can supply to many productions, and a production can be supplied by many suppliers. A supplier item table is used to manage the item supplied to the company. Based on the diagram, we can know the relationship. Between the supplier and the production. It's many to many. So we need to conduct another composite tables for these two tables, which is supplier items. In these supplier item tables, we have one primary key, which is item code. In this table, we also have another two foreign keys, which is from the supplier and the production. First is supplier ID and another one is production ID. And back to the question, a payment has a unique code and transaction code. Based on the diagram, we connect the supplier payment through the supplier items, and we list out the primary key, which is payment ID, and a foreign key is from the primary key that from supplier items, which is item code, and another attribute is transaction date. Back to the question. A supplier can make many payments, while a payment is made by only one supplier. Based on the diagram, we can know a supplier supplier payment can make many payment to the supplier item, but a supplier item can only be made by one specific supplier payment. Okay, back to the question. A shipment has its unique code, date, container, code. In this point, we need to conduct another table for the shipment. Based on the diagram, we can know the shipment table. Inside the shipment table, we need to conduct a primary key, which is shipment code. And other attributes is container code, pest control service, and also the date. And this is connecting to the production, and the relationship is one to many. Because one shipment can have many production, and many production can only have one shipment. Based on the question, a stock has a unique code, material, and hardware. Based on the diagram, based on the question just now, we need to conduct a stock table. In this stock table, we need to have stock code as a primary key and the materials and hardware as the other attributes. In this stock tables, it connects to the suppliers, and this relationship is one to many. And one stock can be supplied by many suppliers, and many suppliers can supply only one stock. Based on this relationship, we can know it's one to many. And that's all for this question. And the whole diagram, after you finish all the questions, the whole diagram will show out you like this. And thank you very much. That's all for my presentation.